Sir Anthony Panizzi, 1797 through 1879, was an early pioneer of library management. You may be thinking, how could a man who lived in the 1800s have much impact on libraries now? But as you will see, Panizzi's legacy as the chief librarian of the British Museum Library in his formative years is still an inspiring story of successful library management to this day. Panizzi's career was quite far from what he might have imagined as a young man. He was born in Italy and trained for the legal profession, though he practiced only briefly. His political inclinations were unwelcome in his hometown, and his involvement in a secret group promoting the unification and independence of Italy led him to fear for his life. While in exile in Switzerland, he wrote a dissident pamphlet that caused him to be tried in absentia and sentenced to death in Italy. No longer feeling safe in Switzerland, he fled once again to England, where he found work as a professor of Italian in Liverpool, and later accepted a job at a new university founded in London. Panizzi was lucky to find influential friends in British politics and high society, like Henry Brougham and Thomas Grenville, whose encouragement led to him being appointed as an extra assistant librarian at the British Museum. Now, at that time, the museum housed what we might today think of as a national library, but its collection largely consisted of manuscripts and artifacts. Only under Panizzi did the library achieve prominence for its printed book collection. Panizzi was an extremely hard-working and diligent librarian. He climbed the ranks at a relatively fast pace, which led to some conflict. His promotion to keeper of printed books was hotly contested, and he faced xenophobic backlash, even though he had become a naturalized British citizen in 1832. The same problems persisted when he was appointed as principal librarian. However, his dedication, motivation, and efficient administration spoke for itself, and he was eventually knighted by the Queen for his service to his adopted country. Panizzi's philosophy of library management was that the national treasures he administered should be accessible to all. In 1836, he said, "I want a poor student to have the same means of indulging his learned curiosity, of following his rational pursuits, of consulting the same authorities, fathoming the most intricate inquiry as the richest man in the kingdom, as far as books go. And I contend that the government is bound to give him the most liberal and unlimited assistance in this project." This approach led him to doggedly pursue a comprehensive printed catalog that would organize the collections in a way that all people could find what they were looking for. It was also manifested in his design of a grand but welcoming reading room, where patrons came to use the library for almost 150 years. Panizzi was a pioneer in library research, using data as evidence to support his proposals. To test his theory that a comprehensive author catalog and subject index was vital for the British Library, he sent a questionnaire to preeminent libraries all over Europe and followed up by traveling to the responding libraries for field study. Panizzi was also a pioneer of technical services management. His book of cataloging rules would become the foundation for all subsequent English language cataloging. One of his greatest ideas, the concept of corporate authorship by an organization, was rejected by his contemporaries and only came to light years later. Panizzi vigorously supported the new copyright law that required British publications to be deposited at his library, which broadened the collection and expanded its appeal to patrons. Panizzi was a visionary, and his leadership led to the construction of a grand reading room, a space he designed for maximum utility and grandeur. The expanded stacks were certainly needed for all the printed volumes he added to the library from all around the world. As you can see from this quote from Maccrimmon, Panizzi faced challenges well known to library administrators. Indeed, he demonstrated many of what are considered by the Library Leadership and Management Association to be core competencies for library managers today: change management, budget creation, forward thinking, evidence-based decision-making, and ethics. Yet in some areas he struggled, such as in conflict resolution. Panizzi successfully petitioned the government for grants to expand library collections that once relied solely on private donations. He also urged the Parliament to increase wages and eventually succeeded in getting library employees considered part of the British civil service. Panizzi's rivalries were one area where he did not succeed in being a conciliatory manager, but his zeal for the library's mission overall won the respect of his staff. Panizzi also worked hard to standardize library access procedures, implementing policies such as printed slips for retrieving books using a printed shelf list, the precursor to the library card catalog, and requiring logs of all materials borrowed from the library, instituting a 4-book limit, instead of allowing members to remove any books at will. Sir Anthony Panizzi was an exceptional library leader whose tenacity built a world-class library institution and whose skills in library administration set the bar high for future leaders in the field. I'll leave you with this quote from Barbara McCrimmon. While in that office, Panizzi brought the museum to public attention in a way that served to establish its place in the social and educational structure of the nation. He had systematized library keeping in a way that provided a universally useful model. And he had solidified an emerging concept of librarianship into a respected profession.